And I was like, he's not serious. Like, we're not going to jump from ice floe to ice floe until we actually come to the fast ice. He's not going to do that. But he did it.
In this episode, I chat with wild woman Melissa Schäfer. From her early childhood days in Hamburg, Germany, Melissa has viewed the world through her camera lens. With a background in creative and portrait photography, she has always had a unique eye for the surroundings, a deep love for the Arctic and polar bears, as well as a strong commitment to nature and the environment is a foundation for all her work. Melissa is the founder and editor-in-chief of Mother Magazine and has been published by the New York Times, National Geographic, as well as many others. Together with her partner, Frederick, and their Mother Bear Productions, she also organizes expeditions in the Arctic. You can find out more at themotherbear.com. Now on to the episode with wild woman Melissa Schäfer. All right. Hey, Melissa.
Hello.
We've been chatting back and forth on like Instagram, and I'm a new supporter, a new-ish supporter. As soon as I found out about your magazine, the Mother Magazine, I'm like, oh, I'm all in on this. So we'll talk about that a little bit later, but it's a really fabulous publication. I think you're like doing amazing things.
Thank you so much.
Is it interesting, like when people talk about you, like, oh, you're amazing? Are you like, what?
It's weird. Yeah. I feel always a little like, wow, I want to hide somewhere. I mean, that's what it takes to be behind the camera, not in front of it.
I know. It's different though, like when we're putting our work out to the world and then we want people to see it, but then we gotta just go tell people about it too, And so sometimes that means that we have to talk about ourselves and then be in front of the camera or whatever it is,
Yeah. We live and learn.
I know. It's all about, I guess, figuring out what we're comfortable with.
Yeah.
So I really appreciate you joining me. I'm super excited to talk about some of your experiences, and because I've had Taylor Stone on. Do you know Taylor Stone? Maybe. I'm always asking this. I'm like, do you know this person? And they're like, no, Brie, only you know all the people.
Well, I'm very bad with names. If you show me their photos, I could say yes or no. But if with names, I'm often like, no. And then I see an image and I'm like, of course I know her.
Right, exactly. Well, Taylor Stone, I had her on an early episode of the podcast, and she's doing some amazing work in Greenland. And we talked about how oh my gosh, she literally wants to go. And I don't know if this was on the podcast or if this was afterward. Like, she wants to go diving. She's a certified scuba diver. Anyway, she wants to get her advanced certification so she can go dive and see the undersides of icebergs and stuff.
Wow. That must be beautiful, though. I would like to do that too.
I feel like you guys would have a lot to talk about because both of you spent a lot of time in cold places.
Yeah, we like the cold.
I know. I'm a warm weather girl for sure. I went snowshoeing actually this month for the first time. So I've been a couple of times, and it literally is my new favorite thing, but I don't live anywhere near snow because I'm in Texas. But I'm also like a fair weather snow enjoyer because I don't want it to be heavy snowing and I don't want it to be cold and windy. I just want it to be sunny so that I don't have to wear all the things. I just want it to be like perfect, beautiful weather.
But the truth is, we all want that. We all want sun and cold. No wind, no storm. We want the sunny, cold days. So
right.
And it's different. I mean, actually, in Germany, I hated the cold. I didn't like winter because it was this wet cold, and there was not real snow, just like a little. But now, I love it. So as much snow as possible.
How much snow do you get there? Because you're in Sweden.
In Sweden, actually, this year is insane. I think the last 3 months we were covered in snow. It's beautiful. It's really winter wonderland. So now it's sadly melting, but I hope the snow comes back.
It probably will.
Yeah.
I hope for you that it does. How about we just get right into it, because you have all of these things like that you shared with me in my form that I sent out, and I'm like, "Oh my gosh, I want to talk about all of them, but I just don't think that we have time, to be honest."
Yeah, I was a little like, what should I tell you? I don't know. And then there was so much coming up. So yeah, you pick. We can do this again.
Well, that's why I send it, because if I was like, "Tell me about you," then it's, you're anyway, it's just difficult for me, even when someone's like, "Hey, tell me some stories." I'm like, "I don't know. You
Mm-hmm.
want to hear about interesting things about me? I don't think there's any." But that's actually not true. I just needed to like take some time to think about it. Okay, first, I want to talk about your dog.
Me too.
Because like he's so cute. What's his name? He's a boy, right?
He's a boy. His name is Pingo.
Pingo, Pingo.
Yes.
Okay. I like it. It's like bingo, but with P. All right. So, yeah, can we just talk about your dog for a minute? I know this doesn't have a lot to do with photography, but I feel like that anytime we can have the support behind us, it makes us better photographers. And I feel like your partner is a huge support for you. And I think also your dog. I said, give me an example of one of the craziest moments. And you listed like meeting your dog. Can you just tell us about that?
Yes. I mean, I actually have two dogs, but in this case, I talk about Pingo. Um, so the first time I came to Svalbard, to the Arctic, I was, of course, like probably everyone who comes there is like mind blowing. I mean, it's insane when you see the mountains and the snow, and just if you realize you're in the Arctic. That was something I never actually thought I will see in my life. So that was insane. And the second thing we did was we went to a dog yard, because on Svalbard there are so many sled dogs. They're working there for the tourists, and we just wanted to see some animals where you can get up close because you don't want to do that with bears or anything else up there. So we went to this dog yard up the hill. It's like on the end of the street. There's just one street in Longyearbyen, and at the end of it, there's a little dog yard on top of a hill. And all dogs freak out. So when you walk in there, they all jump on the leash. They all want to see you. They want attention. They're happy that people come there, that they get cuddled. And there was one dog who he was hiding in his house. So he drew my attention a little there. So I walked to him, and he only came out when I was alone. So when my partner came, he was hiding. When I was sitting there alone, he was coming out. And it started as a joke. I said, I'm going to take him home. I didn't even know that was possible at that time. And the years after, when I came back, the first thing on my list is visiting Pingo and just tell him that I'm going to get him one day. And at one point, the person who is, taking care of all these dogs, she saw me return all the time. And then she said, do you want to actually adopt him? So I went on this list, and I really wanted to get him because I fell in love with him. I just felt like he's meant to be with me, and he was like only coming out when I was there, and it just felt like he's my dog. So in COVID, actually, when COVID hit, she called me and she said, you can get him tomorrow. So that was quite insane because my partner actually didn't want to adopt another dog because by then we already had a dog. But there was no, I mean, of course I had to get him. I promised him for 5 years every winter that I'm going to get him. So now he's here and he's my everything. So he turned from this sled dog living in this house, in his little house. So he was never inside actually a normal house. He never saw a tree. He never saw small dogs or cats or squirrels or anything what you have in Sweden. So it was quite a journey to get him here. and to get him used to a family. He has now a family. So he was really like, it was meant to be. He's my baby, even when he's 12 years old almost.
Oh my goodness. He like went from the dog family to the people family.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. On Svalbard, yeah, I love that you said that there's no trees because really it's the Arctic. So there's nothing, things like that don't really grow. Does anything grow on Svalbard?
I mean, you have in summer, but you don't really have you don't have bushes or trees or anything. You have like, vegetation, but there's nothing like tree like there. So he was crazy when we walked the forest the first time. He was just sniffing everything. So it was every day is an adventure for him now.
I think that's so awesome. Did you go to Sval? I just, by the way, before we move on, I really love this connection. And I think that when we go to these places, like we never know. I'm assuming you went to Svalbard to do photography, and I'll ask you about that in a minute, but we just never know like the adventures we're going to have or the connections that we're going to make. And I just think it's surprising. And so personally, I love that you found this really amazing connection with this animal that now you get to hang out with all the time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I never imagined that I would get a dog from the Arctic.
I will not be getting a dog from the Arctic.
Well, you never know.
Yeah, no. Well, we have a smaller dog and she's good for like a 2-mile hike and then we come home and she's kind of like a little lap dog, back of the couch dog. That's kind of my style. I don't know. I personally would visit the Arctic, but I don't know. I don't know. I'll be surprised. I'm going to just be open to any kind of connection that I make.
Yeah,
How about that?
because Pingo actually is a couch dog. Like he is now a couch dog. He loves the carpet. He loves just laying at the fireplace. He doesn't want to be outside anymore. He likes summer now. So
He's like, guys, I did that. I'm good now. He's retired.
yeah, 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 really.
He's like an old man. He's like a retiree. There you go.
Yeah, he is.
So good. So good. Well, when you went to Svalbard, I know you spent a decent amount of time there. There's something that pulls you back there. And did you go there for the first time to do photography?
Well, the first time it was just that Frederick, my partner, so I met him in Sweden, or I met him online, and then I went to Sweden. And then he just said, because he worked there already for like 15 years. So for him, that was his second home. It was nothing. He knew the people, he knows all the valleys, he knows the mountains. You just show him a photo and he knows where it is. So for him, it was natural to go there. So for me, the first time was just, following and looking. I think the first time I was on Svalbard, I just stayed in the village and I stared at the mountains for a week and I couldn't get enough. So I didn't even leave the village. That was already so much in my mind that I'm like, wow, I never saw something that beautiful. So I couldn't even imagine going out there at that time. So the first thing, it was basically just sitting in the village and looking to the left and to the right. And am I dreaming or is this true? Seeing northern lights. So that was the first time. It was like in the dark time. So it was really special, yeah. But then when we came back, then it was for photography, yeah. In like March, April, when you had more sun, and then we went on the first expedition.
I think there's so many things that we learn about ourselves when we go to new places. And I remember when I went to Utah for the first time and I went to go, I mean, I had visited, but I remember going to live there and I'm like, there's a mountain here like all the time. It has snow on it. And I was actually just there and remembering how it felt because I don't have anything like that around me. It's in the scheme of things, it's relatively flat. And I think it is interesting to all of a sudden have something in front of you all the time that's massive and like awe inspiring that,
Mm-hmm.
I should say also in Svalbard, you don't want to wander far unless you're with people that can protect you from the
Definitely.
polar bears.
Yes. So yeah, that's one reason why we stayed in the village.
Right, exactly. Yeah, we hosted a Norwegian exchange student and he went with us. He was telling me he went with his dad soon after he left us. And he was telling me, sending me videos and pictures. And I'm like, I had never even heard of Svalbard. And then all of a sudden, all these people are talking about Svalbard. And I'm like, okay, it's such an interesting place. So one of the things that I know that you are really passionate about are polar bears. And for some reason, just like the dog, I feel like you have this like special connection with them. So, I mean, do you feel like that's an accurate description?
Well, I feel like that I have a special connection to them. Maybe not they have this to me.
No, they want to
But
eat you 100%.
yeah. I mean, actually, when I was a kid, I always loved polar bears. So that was more like a dreamy image I had of the polar bears. And that stayed in my mind because it was never close to reality. So I always thought no one can see polar bears. And I refused to see them in the zoo. I didn't want to see a, polar bear locked in on a plastic mountain. So I just never thought of the possibility to actually see one in the wild. So actually the first time I saw a bear, I went very fast from they're so cute, I want to cuddle them, to oh my God, stay away from me. Because they have this energy, just how they move, you do not want to cross that energy and you want to stay on the good side of it. So they are so powerful when you see them in real, like when you stand on the same ice floe as a bear. I don't mean on a boat or something because that's different, but the first time I saw a bear, I stood on the sea ice and the bear walked towards us. And that was, I think, I never felt so many emotions at one time. Like there was everything, every emotion you can feel was in there and like going on my pores. So, but I had Fred. So he's like the opposite of me. He's so calm. Like when there's wildlife, when there's a bear, like his heartbeat slows basically. He slows down. Like my heartbeat goes so fast.
He's totally trained himself. Yes. Yeah.
So I call him the polar bear whisperer. So and he, of course, when he's with me, I feel safe. So he knows exactly how to read the bear, and he knows, are we welcome here right now, or should we back off? And I trust that. So the first time, I just had this bear, my energy, Fred's energy, and that was synced perfectly together. So it was the most amazing experience, I think, in my life.
You told me that the first polar bear on your first trip was named Helen.
Yes. Yes, I had to give her. I don't know. I think it started with her. I named her Helen. And after that, if I felt like I met a reindeer, a fox, a walrus, whatever it was, not just bears, I gave them a name because that made it more personal. And also talking about them and showing images to, online or on lectures, it makes people connect to not just a bear. Then people know what a polar bear is, but polar bears are individuals like we are. So I think for me, naming them makes sense. Some people will say I shouldn't personalize them or my encounter with them, but for me, that's the most important part, to share that and to make other people meet Helen, and not just meet a bear.
I think there's a lot of us that would agree, and that by you naming the bear and talking about her, I think a lot of us can also feel that personal connection, even if it's through a photograph and we've never actually been there in person. And I think that's partly about what makes photography so interesting is we get to not only do we get to photograph something, but so there's two sides to it, right? We have the image, right, that tells the story, but then you have the person behind it
Yeah.
telling the story. So, and I think, I don't know, who's telling you not to name the animals?
Well, people tell me a lot of things. I don't listen always.
Yeah, I don't think you need to listen. I don't think you need to listen to these people. You just keep doing what you're gonna do,
Yeah.
So you saw Helen. Do you know that she was a female for
Yes.
sure?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. So like that was obvious. You said seeing a mother with cubs on the sea ice. And when you're out there, you're photographing, right? Like I know we'll talk about some of your work in a little bit, but all while out like doing photography, making photos, and also having the adventure too, right? So tell me about this mother with the cubs.
Well, the mother was actually 1 year after Helen. And my idea was the year after, or my hope was to see Helen again. So we cannot say for sure that it's the same bear. It could be, but we don't know that. And we went to the east coast of Spitsbergen, and they have these little cabins there. So polar bear hunters built those years ago, and you can rent them basically from the Swedish government. You need permission to go there. And we had that. So we went there with our sleeping bag and with some food and with all the camera equipment. And, you have so much with you when you're out in the Arctic on the snowmobile. You need safety equipment and change of clothes and all these snowmobile things for safety and avalanches. And they have a lot of stuff you need. So we have these sleds packed with a lot of things. And actually the way to the bear or to the wherever you want to go is often the most challenging. It's not the animal itself, and also the most dangerous because people think that the bears are the dangerous part, but I think it's the environment that can be really dangerous, because the bears, they're dangerous if you let it happen and if you do a mistake, but we don't do that. We're moving through valleys, we go over glaciers, we go over sea ice, and if you have done this trip before, we often have our GPS, so we track our route, so we know where it's safe because we went there before. But you have to have the route first, so you have to go once before. And just knowing that you're on top of a glacier, and glacier have cracks and they can be covered by snow. So there's, I think, all accidents that happened also to my partner were never with a bear. It was on the way. He fell into a glacier crevice. He broke his back. There's so sea ice can just break up when you're standing on it. So the weather can change. There's so much you cannot really know. So the way to the bear is actually what you have to be the most in the moment, and not just, drive blindly and hope that you come there. So out of this cabin, when we arrived there after all this drive, I mean, I was so excited already, like having this, going over glaciers and going down the glacier. And then you see the sea ice, and this is where the bears are, because they don't live in the valleys, they're on the ice. But it's so big. I don't think people can imagine how big the landscape is. So it's not like you look over there and you're like, oh, look, there's a bear. It's really huge. Like, you have to stand still and really be patient and wait for it. And sometimes you don't see anything. And sometimes you're lucky, like we were. So we saw this little, she was actually laying down. So first I thought it was an iceberg. And we went on one snowmobile. So we become smaller and more invisible, so we don't disturb the bear, because we don't, that's the last thing we want to do. So I left my snowmobile behind, jumped on the back, and we drove a little closer, and then I saw that there was a fox next to the bear. What's normal, or quite often that happens, that foxes follow bears when they hunt and just eat the leftovers. But after we stopped and just looked for a while, it wasn't a fox, it was actually two cubs laying there. And that was just insane. Just knowing, honestly, it also scared me so much, because the mother, you really don't want to get close to.
Right.
So we had really big distance. The bear was, even with my long lens, it was a very, very small bear, but that was all I needed to be the happiest person on this planet. You don't have to be that close all the time to just feel that moment. So that was insane. And I think we spent probably just half an hour there because we didn't want to, she was hunting clearly. So there was no way she's moving. The cubs were sleeping. She was just staring down in this breathing hole from seals. So we just left her. And the next morning we went out again. We slept in this cabin. And then there was like rumble dumble in the jungle. The cubs were running around, they were playing, they were chasing each other. And she was like teaching them to sit still. So you could really, from this distance, watch her, how she teaches these small little playful like puppies how to stay back because she's hunting now, and how they, you know, really listen to that. So that it's like, I mean, the biggest experience when you're out there is actually when you see these interactions between them and how they live and are on the ice without actually being even noticed by them. She never looked at us. I think that was the most beautiful mother I've ever seen, because we were completely alone on the ice. There was no other human. There was just us and the bears and the two crazy cubs rolling around. And I don't have the most amazing photos from it because I was so far away. We gave her the space and I had a 400 only with me, but that didn't matter much at that moment. So it was really, really beautiful. And I hope it was Helen. I'm not sure, but some part of me thinks she became a mother.
I think it would be amazing if it was. I mean, you can always pretend it was.
Yeah, I mean, it can be.
Right. Did you name the cubs?
No, I did not. Maybe because I didn't have that closeness to them. It was just like an amazing experience, but we didn't have this. With Helen, I really felt this connection. Like she was posing for us. She was on top of these icebergs. She was rolling under it. She was sniffing the air. But she was so calm and she was playing in the snow. So that was special, yeah. So I don't name all of them, just the ones that really we have that connection then.
I loved hearing about that part where you're just alone. And I think there's something really beautiful about doing all the work to get there. And, you know, it's risky. There's a lot of possibilities for, bad things to happen. And so to do all of that and all the planning and all the things and to get there and then just being alone and having that experience, I think is like really special. I don't think that many people, like there's like handfuls of people that have these kinds of experiences, you know?
Yeah.
Right. So do you think that makes it even more special when you know that this is like a very rare experience in the world?
It wasn't, I mean, I wasn't aware at that moment because that was the normal for Fred. You know, it's like we go out there, we do that because it's his normal.
Right.
So for me, it had to become the normal. But later on, I realized that is not what people do. Also not when they come to Svalbard. You know, not everyone just gets permission to be in these cabins and go on the ice. There's actually, for a good reason, very hard regulations on who is allowed on the ice and how to approach bears. You cannot just go up there and, you know, rent a gun and go see a bear. So it's not how it works. And it's good that that there are regulations and not everyone can do it. But I wasn't aware of it. And honestly, it's not important to me if it was like, what I think was most surprising for me, that when I was out there in this complete silence, that I actually got scared. The first evening, this silence, I couldn't handle it because you're used to sounds, your phone, cars, sound, just like people, anything. And we had no connection. There's no cell phones. There's nothing. And just realizing you're far out somewhere in a little wooden cabin with two bunk beds or one bunk bed and a little oven, and you have bears walking around this cabin and nothing else. I was like, why am I here?
Right.
What is wrong with me? Like, who said that? This is a good idea.
Right. Your mother definitely did not say this was a good idea.
Actually, my mom did. Yeah, my mom was actually the one who was like, go out there, just do it.
Oh, she did?
Yeah, she was really like, as long as Fred is with you, you're going to be safe. And she's right.
Melissa's mama, we love you. Because, I've talked on the podcast before about how my mom is like, you're going to go camping overnight by yourself? Are you going to be safe? Like, and your mom is like, yes, you're going to be safe. Go with Fred, go out on the sea ice, go. Maybe she didn't realize.
I think also she just didn't want to stay in my way because she knows that my nature is really being nervous. Like when I grew up in Hamburg, I didn't dare to take the bus alone to a different city. I was afraid of getting lost, of, people treating me bad or whatever. So I just stayed home. Like I never left really Germany, like Hamburg. So going to Sweden was quite a shocker. And then going to Svalbard was another shocker. And then being like, I'm going to go to the bears now. I think it was a little like this, is that really happening to my daughter? So I actually called her we had like a satellite phone, and I wanted to make sure, because like you said, she's my mom. So probably she realizes now I'm out there without a cell phone with bears. So I called her actually at her job just to tell her that I'm fine. Like, Mom, I'm here in the cabin. We saw a bear, but I'm fine. And she was very excited. Her colleagues was even more excited, I think, about that. I was like on speaker in the office. So it was quite a call, I think, from basically the middle of nowhere in the Arctic.
I love that she's such a good support.
Yeah.
I think sometimes as moms, like I have 4 kids, we don't realize the crazy things our kids are doing. But we definitely, for sure, they would never tell me. And also I want to be really supportive of them, and I want to just trust that they know what they're doing. So she's probably just thrilled you're out of the house and doing things.
Yeah, it brought us closer. So I call her, I tell her everything. So she knows what I'm doing, what I'm up to. So
that's awesome.
I don't think she has to, or my dad also. I call them both, and they both are very supportive.
Amazing. You've been out on expedition with Paul Nicklen and Minnie, and you talk about being seasick and stuff, but tell us more about this experience, because I've heard Paul Nicklen speak before, and he is super passionate. They're like ultra passionate, and they absolutely, you can see it in their eyes, you can hear it in their voices. They absolutely love what they do. And I can't imagine that doesn't rub off on you when you are like in close proximity to them, watching them, hearing them. And, so tell us more about being on Sea Legacy. Like, what was that like? Is it hard to be having this experience and also being super seasick?
So it was actually the year after I got really seasick. So the year before I did my first boat trip, and that was, I thought I'm going to die basically. So then I promised myself to never go on a ship again. So the year after,
this Paul, is the stay in your room part. Like, I'm just going to stay home, right?
Done that, bye.
Right.
Never again. Right. But then, of course, when, Paul Nicklen and Christina Mittermeier want to go with you to the Arctic, I'm like, sure, I go on all the boats for as long as you want to. So I really did try to hide my seasickness and my fear of the ocean. And I'm still working on ships now, so it worked. It was very good. But it was insane. It was my second year in the Arctic, and I was such a newbie. I was afraid of every little wave. And then you have Paul Nicklen and Christina Mittermeier in front of you, who basically breathe the ocean, control the environment. And, when they start talking, you just melt away. It's like when I met them, I was so nervous, I think I almost fainted. But they're really the kindest, like they're so kind and funny. Like Paul made jokes about me because I always look so serious. Because when I'm nervous, I either way bubble like nonstop, or I just freeze. Like there's no emotion in my face anymore. So I look very serious, but I'm actually just very nervous. So I just had sunglasses on and, didn't say anything, because when you go out with them, you do things you don't do normally on a ship. Like,
right. Exactly.
It's different when you go out, and it was really fun. But I also thought, why? And I don't want to be the last one, behind. Like there was one situation, we went out with the Zodiacs, these little rubber boats. Paul had the whole equipment, red camera. He was filming. He had assistants with him. So we're in these little, and I just have my little one camera house with one lens. I have like the little, hi, here am I. This is my equipment. And we wanted to go on the ice because there was a bear, but quite far into the ice. So we wanted to go on the ice edge and, set up the camera on the ice so he could film a little. But the ice floes broke up around the ice edge, so we couldn't go in with these zodiacs. And a part of me was relieved because that means I don't have to stand on sea ice. There's things I'm afraid of and I cannot show because I have Paul Nicklen standing next to me. But, not knowing Paul Nicklen at that moment, I was relieved, thinking, now we go back to the ship. He just took the red camera on his shoulder and said, we're going to jump the ice floes. And I was like, he's not serious. Like, we're not going to jump from ice floe to ice floe until we actually come to the fast ice. He's not going to do that. But he did it with this huge camera on his shoulder. And everyone else was just like, okay. So they just hopped the ice floes. And I was like, okay, sure, I can do that. So I did it. But there were so many situations, I'm like, I'm going to die. But, for them, that was like walking the park. I think he was basically born on the ice. He's like, he knows ice. He knows how to walk on it. He knows how thick it is. He knew everything. And I was such a newbie. So for me, just seeing these ice floes and the water in between and knowing I have to jump was like, that doesn't sound like a good idea.
I don't think it sounds like a good idea either. However, there's a lot of validity. I don't think that's the right word that I want to use, but maybe security in going with someone who you really trust because and knows what they're doing. And I think in those kind of situations where you really are talking about like life and death situations, you have to know that the people that you're with, you can absolutely trust. And that if they're taking you on some adventure that you're like, this seems pretty foolish, but I'm going to do it anyway. I'm just going to trust you. I think that's when we have to kind of either go, because I guess you could have decided not to go, right? But trusting yourself too, to go to say, I'm okay with this. Like I'm just going to trust him. And so then I trust me too. So I don't know if that's like afterwards what went through your head or this, but I like, anyway, I'd see that. How did you change, like being with people, and whether it's Paul or, Christina Minnemeyer, whether it's them or other people that are also really passionate, because I'm sure you've been with those people. I mean, Frederick seems like he's pretty passionate about what he does. How has that, being around people who are, in this space, who are really passionate, who are doing, taking the risks to do the things, how has that changed you as a person and a photographer?
Honestly, it's completely, I am a new Melissa since then. Sometimes when I think back, I cannot believe how much I changed because I keep thinking I'm still the same person, but I'm not. But just learning from these people, watching them, why they do it, like their reasoning, it's just like they never do it for a photo. So many people go out there because they just want to have a pretty photo. That's not their goal. They just, they want to connect. They want to bring this message to people. They do it because they love it and they love what's in front of them and they want other people to love it. So you learn so much by watching that. And if it's Paul or if it's guests on our, we also charter a boat and we go out with guests. And I learned so much from my guests and they hopefully also from us. But it's when you see that someone does it for the right reason, it inspires you also. You learn with every person more about yourself, about your reasoning. Why am I here? Why am I doing it? Because it doesn't have to be the same reason, but you have to find your reason. I started first just taking, the first year on Svalbard, I thought what I want or what everyone wants to see is close-ups. This is what people want. So I just focus on close-ups. So I always try to crop the photo as much as I can. I try to be as close as I can. And when I came home, I was almost sad that the world of ice was not on the photos anymore. The glaciers were not there. The walrus colonies were not there. I was so focused on what maybe other people want to see that I didn't do what I want to show people. I want to show them the world and the polar bear, but the world belongs to the polar bear. So it took me a year to realize that I show the wrong thing. I show what I think other people want to see, but that's not what I want to share with the world. And if you watch him or Fred being passionate about it, and how they take photos, how they work, how they communicate with the crew, with the people, with the animal. Also when you see that they, there's the perfect moment, you could get the most beautiful photo in the world, but the bear or the walrus or whatever animal it is doesn't seem comfortable. Many people push it because on the photo you can still say it's a beautiful photo, but behind the photo there was stress. There was maybe the bear ran away, maybe the walrus went into the water, whatever happened. And I do not want to share those photos with knowing that it came from a negative cost of the environment or the animal itself. And I think many people who go to places like that, they just think they have to get the best photo no matter the cost. And that's, I think, is something we try to communicate with our guests. It's not about your photo. It's not about you. This is about the Arctic and it's about this animal, and to bring that message to the people, to show this beautiful world and not just take something, make some money of it, and leave it broken or in fear or whatever it is. And if you watch them, you really learn from them how to approach and be, and find out your own reasoning for what you're doing.
Thank you. And you are so good at bringing the stories to us about the ice, about the bears. And I think this is a great time to talk about you and what you're doing, and how I was introduced to you. I was introduced to you through someone else's podcast, which I will link to in the show notes, in the episode description. And I heard you talking about your magazine called Mother. And I think you were talking about volume 1. And I was like, it's sold out. I can't even get it. So, but you better believe when volume 2 came out, I was right on it. I've got it here with me. It is the most beautiful publication. It's such a labor of love. And what I love is that right on the front cover, it says, there will be nothing left but stories. And this is part of why I do this podcast, is because we want to hear about people's experiences. We want to hear about the stories and the special places and what people feel about things. And so many of what people are thinking behind when they photograph or while they photograph or why they photograph, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's just really beautiful. So could you talk about this magazine for a little bit? Tell us more so we can be enticed to get the next issue.
Well, first of all, it's always weird to see it somewhere on the other part of the planet.
Yeah, it's in Texas, baby. Here it is, Austin, Texas.
That's amazing. It's actually one of the fun parts when you pack, because I did everything from home to just jump ahead a little. And when I packed it, when you see all the states and countries and names, then it's just, wow, this is going to go around the world. So that was one very exciting part. But yeah, the magazine, where should I start? Beginning or?
So yeah, tell us like why you do it, and we'll start there.
Okay. Well, I do it because I love it. No, I felt for a long time not like, how do I say it? Like working in the Arctic in such a male dominant place and also a very scientific place where people have lots of knowledge. I always felt like I couldn't share my stories because I just have the emotional part. I don't have the knowledge, the studies behind it. I, don't live there or work there like for years and know the mountains like Fred does, for example. So I always felt that my voice doesn't matter, and I let him talk. So it took me probably 6 years, maybe even short before the magazine, to realize that the way I tell my stories reaches also maybe not the same people, but that's even better if we reach new people and share these parts of the world with them. So I try to find my voice in it, and I realized while doing that so many of my friends, female friends, had the same problem. So they felt they are not good enough to share, or they're not experienced enough to share. And people don't, listen to them as much as they listen to their boyfriends or some partners, some male partners. So the magazine started more as just an idea. And honestly, I thought it will not happen because I was just randomly sending emails to people I know and people I follow since a while. And I thought no one would answer me because this is not even planned out. I just said, there's something. I didn't even have a design. I didn't even think about what that means to make a magazine, what it means to do a design or communicate to people, because I before just worked with Fred alone. I never had to, make dates or deadlines or talk to people and be on time or be responsible for other people's work. It was always just mine, or ours. So we just we live together. So that was much easier. And there was a lot of things I didn't know. And honestly, it was good that I didn't know, because if I would have known, I probably wouldn't have done it. But it was such a learning process. And through it, I felt even more that women, because like the first magazine, I think I said that also before, I think 90% of the women in the first issue said, "Are you sure? I don't think I'm good enough." Even when I picked them, I said, "I love your photos. Do you want to do this with me?" And the first response is like, "I don't think I'm good enough. Are you sure about this?" And I saw me so much there being like, maybe you ask my friend, she's better than me. And, why are we doing that? Like, why? And that made me even more to push this through, even when I had problems, to learn so much to it. But I wanted them to see that they're good enough. Of course they are. So it started there, and then it became so much bigger than I thought. It was meant to be just for Sweden. It was just meant to be a little handout at some event.
I'm laughing right now.
That's why I was so shocked when I see it now on the other part of the world. It was just meant to be a little event, some prints. Okay, done. I just, I learned something new. I have fun with some people. I connect with some new amazing women I love. And maybe, hopefully, they love me. So the first magazine was even more. It was actually people who I wanted to be once, who I was once. I mean, like, there was so much. The first magazine was really me in all variations. That sounds weird, but like, I started with portrait photography, and there was Lisa Love with all her crazy, like, what she can do with all her portraits. And I love her. I have like prints in my house now from her. Then there was like, Rita was underwater, and I was like, this is such a dream, and with a leopard seal, and everything was kind of a little part of me, what I wanted to see more from or learn more from them. And that was really special for me, that all of them just said yes. They were just like, I'm in it. And, it was the worst designs. It was super ugly in the beginning, but they didn't left. They were still like, I'm going to believe in you. You're going to fix it. So, yeah. And then it started to become this international shipping, and it was everywhere. It was crazy. And then, of course, I wanted to do volume 2. And I did. And that was as fun. It was new people. It was new stories. It was the most fun for me is to learn all that, because often I pick stories for, I want to learn about it. Like, I want to see how that feels or how that looks. And I want to ask the people. That way, it's not just sending me a text and a photo and you're done. I'm going to ask you questions. I want to feel what you feel. and probably even more. But I really like to feel what the people also feel in that moment. And I want to learn about the animal, about the landscape, about them. And then I hope, of course, that the people who read the magazine also are interested in these topics. But yeah.
It's a really beautiful publication, and I definitely think the world needs more stories. So thank you for bringing it to life, because it really is so beautiful, and I really love like the paper is gorgeous, the images are just amazing, and the stories are really special. So thank you for really highlighting women, like female photographers and their stories. I think it's just amazing work. But submissions are closed now for it, and I know you're in the process of bringing it to life. So we're excited for it. So how do you have like a mailing list? How could people get notified that it's coming out? Tell us about that, and then also how else people can work with you.
Well, volume 3, I don't have a, well, I actually do have a mailing list. We have on our website. You can sign up there. I don't, it's not like connected just to the magazine, it's also connected to our work in the Arctic. But I do send newsletters there. But I also, the best is, I think, to check the social media. So my social media, and also from the Mother magazine, because I think there I will post when it's time, and updates. And about the submissions I posted, what was insane, I got over 90 submissions. I never thought I would get so many people who want to share their stories. It was the first time I opened for submissions, because before I just ask people. So I didn't think that would actually work. And it's beautiful. I'm so thankful for so many people, because it shows me that people want to be part of it. Because when you sit, I sit basically all the time alone behind the computer and build it. So sometimes I lose these connections to, does people actually care? Am I doing this right? Like, so seeing all the submissions come in just was like, wow, actually people want to be part of it. It's something not just in my mind. So that was really mind blowing. And it's really hard to pick the new
I can't
photographers,
imagine.
because there's so many. I have to understand all the stories first. Like, my brain is not wired, I feel like a normal brain. I have to see it in the layout, and I have to get some background information to actually know, what do I want? Is that what I want, or can we go in a different direction? So if someone sends me, orca, killer whale photos, I have to read up on them first. So that takes a lot of time. And it's so exciting. But then, it's like this puzzle that comes together, and I'm like freaking out. And then I'm so happy again. So it's really like an up and down. It's like seeing a polar bear. The emotions just go up and down. So yeah, volume 3, I hope it's going to come in May. I hope so. But I also don't want to stress it, because the quality is important. I don't want to just put things in to get it out. It's it's a non-profit. I don't make money of it. I really make it because I love it. I love to connect to the photographers. I love to see them connect to each other, and women come together, and also men come. I have so many men who love the magazine, and that makes me so happy. It's not just for women, it's for everyone. And children read it. I get photos from, so that's, I think, is the biggest present you can give me, if you share what this magazine means to you, or if you share the magazine, so we can, bring it to more people in the world, and not just my little polar bear people, so we can show it to so many more. So like you, people don't have to miss out on the first, second, and third issue.
We're so excited. I'm personally excited for volume 3. It's a really special publication, and um, anyone who's interested in stories and photography, which we all if you're listening to this, you are.
Yes.
So you can go follow. I'll put all of the Instagram accounts in the episode notes, so that you can go follow the Mother magazine on its magazine.mother at magazine.mother, or you can follow Melissa Schäfer. I'll put it all in there. You don't have to know how to spell it. You can just go click it. So for sure. Or you can go online at themotherbear.com and check that out too. Melissa, thank you so much. I have been dying to talk with you, and I really do appreciate you sharing with me and with all of us today. So we wish you all the best.
It was really fun, and I'm so sorry I had to push it a few weeks.
I never worry about that. I let the universe just work things out. It's all great. It all works out the right as it should. So I'm really looking forward to volume 3, and I can't wait to read all the stories. It's going to be awesome.
Me too.
Oh, so if you're listening to this and you submitted something, and because Melissa was telling me that she hasn't gotten some response from some emails, I don't know that anybody who's, but if by some chance you submitted to Mother Magazine and you haven't gotten an email, you might want to check your spam or something, because she has sent out emails, right?
Thank you.
Just in case. So anyway, helping you out, getting your responses. All right, everyone. Melissa, thank you again. And I can't wait for the next one. So we will see you on the next one. Bye.
Bye.
Bye, y'all. Come with me on my next adventure. Be a wild woman and join me on one of my small group photography escapes in places like the cypress swamps of East Texas or White Sands, New Mexico. Go to wildwomanphotography.com for all the details. While you're there, you can check out featured wild women, episode transcripts, and more. Oh, and I'd love for you to support this podcast and all these incredible wild women in photography by leaving a review or sharing with a friend. Thank you so much for listening.